Exactly. Bearing in mind, I agree with you totally. And bearing in mind, I always think about this when I talk with my colleagues all over the globe. We're talking about a definition that is that I am a little bit irritated over, and that is when you see the news, when you read the newspapers. Let's say, for instance, in Sweden, because I live in Sweden. When you read the newspapers in Sweden, you watch television, you listen to the radio shows, and you hear all the news, what's going on in the world. The definition of the terrorisms or the terrorism that is going on, what happens is that they always have a name before the terrorism, and that is, they call it Islamic terrorism, or they call it Islamic terrorists. And how can we I mean, I think we all agree that that is a wrong definition, and that is not a correct definition, of course, because Islam and terrorism cannot go hand in hand, nor can Christianity, nor can Judaism and terrorism go hand in hand. But what I'm trying to say and find the point is that how can we teach, let's say, for example, the Swedish population to feel empathy towards Islamists when they are fed up with information such as Islamic terrorists this, Islamic terrorists that? How can you change that? You understand the difficulty that I'm facing every day.
Yeah, I understand, and I think the schools have a very important role to play, and the curricula in the schools are very important. Much, I think, has to be changed. Political education, it needs to show both sides, and it needs to teach the kids in school to have empathy for the other side and try to make them see both sides. I think this is the main thing I can see. I think that the kids in school, they need to learn that from the beginning on.
Yes, totally.
The heart of education starts, at home, and that's That's a very widely used term because it is true. So, when people raise their children, and I know in America, the trend here is when a child reaches school age, a lot of times what happens is the parents are working, and the children go to school, to public school, and the role of that parent is circumvented, I think, by the school to a degree, because they learn things in school, and when they come home, a lot of times I think what we see is the parents, they pick their children up from school, they bring them home, and they don't spend that time to teach them morality or to teach them about religions. And I think a lot of times in different countries, not just America, that religion has almost become a faux pas. I don't know if that's the correct term for that or not.
Right. This is my feeling too. Yes.
Yeah, but it's almost like a stigmata in places. They're like, they don't even want to talk about it because of all the things that go on. You hear on the news about religion, and the media has really played a big part in painting a dark picture on a lot of religion. And because of what you guys had said a while ago, because the only thing they'll report are the evil things that are happening. They don't report on the good things that are happening, all the work like this that is going on. And we're trying to change that because we are spreading out and we're getting more and more shows. I know we're planning on opening at least 2 or 3 more shows like this in the very near future. It is communication and it is discussion that's going to open these lines up, I believe. And I completely, wholeheartedly, I'll say again, agree with you that politics is not going to solve this problem. It's going to have to be communication between people, and it's going to have to be the education that children come up with from the time they're old enough to notice what's going on, which incidentally, from some of my studies, I can tell you that a child within 24 hours is already learning. As soon as they open their eyes, they're learning. Yes. So everything they see and they hear all through their lives makes an impact, whether they're 1 year old or 5 years old or 15 years old. And I think a lot of people don't realize this, that children are just as smart, if not smarter, than a lot of us are.
Exactly.
So they learn very quickly. They're not less intelligent because they don't know as much. They are actually more intelligent because they don't have all these impressed ideas already on them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it's very important, that this does start at a very young age, and it has to start at home.
It has to start at home. It has to start at home. I have understood, sir, that you are pursuing a suggestion of the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem, Theophilus III, to organize a conference of the religious institutions of the Holy Land in Germany as a neutral place. I like the idea very much. How far have you gone on that?
Yes, I found it is very difficult to get anybody to help. And all the political foundations, they say, "Oh, this is not our business. Our business is political education, but our business is not to support actual political or religious negotiations, as such a conference would be." And so I think it would need a big sponsor. And I still hope that the Turkish government would support such an idea, since the Turks are interested in helping to make peace. And here in Germany, I've found it is very difficult to get financing for such a project.
I think that's a problem with governments around the world.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Because they are, I don't know, I think they're scared of people becoming, their faith building again, and maybe them losing some power over people, maybe. Which you would probably know more about that than me with getting into psychology. That I think would be something to look at too. But the thing of it is it's the same way all over. Any government entity that would have funds to help out, even some of the more prudent ones, UNICEF and Red Cross and stuff. They even have government policy that doesn't allow them to put so much into anything that's religious, because if they do that, then they try to say that they're being favoritist.
Exactly.
So
if I try intercultural, any kind of intercultural events are supported with lots of money. The German government, the foreign ministry, they have millions to support intercultural events, but nothing to support interreligious events. This is just not in their view.
Yes, I think that is a very grave mistake on parts of government myself.
Right, exactly.
That is important information as well, because that is happening around the globe. All the governments, just like Jerry said, are not being helpful when it comes to interreligious negotiations or communications.
Well, we've become so stuck on political venues and political routes, and I hate to keep repeating myself, but for 2,000 years, politics has only gotten things worse because the problems we have in the world are not so much political. If they were all political problems, then yes, political solutions, but they're not political. They're a lot of these are tradition, and they're up through thousands of years with all cultures. America, is not nearly doesn't have the history that a lot of places in the East do, in the Middle East. But the problems here are still just as severe as around the world, and it doesn't matter where you go. I mean, Canada or Germany or Russia or Israel or even Turkey. These problems are not political problems. The political problems that we have, in my opinion, a lot of times are perpetuated by some of these government entities, by the UN and different actions that they take. When you have 6 or 7 countries that are trying to decide the future for the entire world, that is a political move to me that is just ludicrous. So the thing of it is even with things like that, we need to have morality and integrity which are values of religion. So again, I really have a hard time understanding why they would want to cut religion out of this stuff so much. I mean, I know why, but the thing of it is, they're so afraid of somebody saying, "Oh, well, you're paying more attention to them than you are me." And there we go back to empathy again, which is exactly why Mr. Gottfried is here discussing this with us, because like I said, I completely agree.